Okay. Well, gave everybody 5 more minutes. Gave them 5 minutes to join us here. Got kind of a small crowd, so if you want to kind of maybe come to the center potentially. If not, no big deal. Welcome everybody to the second of three open house meetings to talk about our rate case that we're going on. This is the second stage in the outreach. The first stage was something Mayor and Council wanted to ensure that customer engagement was a high priority, and so the first stage was the establishment of a water rates committee set up of residents just as yourself who went through and took a deep dive into everything that is water utilities. And so tonight will be a recap of that, but we'll start off with a little bit of history, and then we'll jump into the rates themselves, and then a little bit of a recap of the journey that the WRC went on. So some quick VIPs in the audience there. I see Mayor Orsborn over there talking, so he can wave when he's ready. Councilmember Yunker in the back, Councilmember Berry, and Vice Mayor sitting right there. So thank you very much for coming. We'll do some introductions, talk about the purpose of the meeting, and then jump right into the rates, and then answer the question of how did we get here. So as I mentioned, first stage in our citizen and customer engagement was the establishment by Mayor and Council of a water rates committee. Tonight with us is Vice Chair Subject. Excuse me, Chair Subject. Wow, I demoted you. That was not my intent. Vice Chair Carolyn Whitehead. I think Brandon James is over here. Adam Gonzalez made it tonight. Mike Hammond, and I think that's it from the committee. Miss anybody? My name is Terry Lowe. I'm the Water Resources Director here at the City of Buckeye. I've been here 3 years. Prior to that, I spent a little bit of time with a private utility, EBCOR Utilities, and then prior to that, I was with the City of Surprise for 15 years, wore a couple different hats. Longest tenure was as the Director of their Water Resource Management Department. They're working on similar things that we did here. My team is here. They're kind of spread out all over the place. As part of the purpose of this meeting, after we're done, have an opportunity to, if you want to ask any technical questions or any operational related questions, they're available to answer some questions. But the main reason for this meeting tonight is to solicit questions, hear your feedback. What you're hearing tonight is all proposed. Nothing's been finalized. These rates are what was presented to the WRC following seven or eight meetings of deliberation back and forth on what it means to have utility rates. What do we need is to do and operate our business properly. And so tonight, again, properly give you a similar crash course to what they had in an accelerated format, and then again an opportunity to talk with the team. Should you have any questions related to the rates themselves, and when you're talking with the team, I would ask if you could direct those to myself, Deputy Director Solis, where's Eddie? Over there, or Business Manager Parker, she's behind me there. They were intimately involved in the establishment of the rates. Our operations team is the professionals when it comes to everything going on with the city itself. So let's jump right in. A little bit of a history. The city, last time the city adopted rates, it was 2013, so it's been a minute. We're coming to that stage where 2013 dollars don't match 2025 pricing. And so that's the reason for the rates, a big reason for the rates, as well as, again, as time goes on, our ability to provide the service diminishes if dollars and cents aren't there. Utilities are what's considered an enterprise fund, and so they are, it is both of them, water, wastewater, they're a small business within the umbrella of a municipal organization. We do not collect any tax revenue, so no sales tax, no property tax, no food tax, none of that comes to utilities. We are completely beholden to the rates that we receive to provide the service, and really that's it. What is the purpose of the rates is just that, to recoup the cost associated with delivering the water service. We don't have a profit motive. We're just a pass-through of those expenses, but everything associated with delivering the water and wastewater services is part of our rates. And so our personnel, salaries, benefits, health costs, everybody knows health insurance continues to go up. That's something that doesn't change. Supplies and services, what is that? Supplies and services is all of our commodity buys, our power, our fuel, every nut and bolt that we need to do our job. Contractor services, our debts, we do carry debt, so our debt services is built in there as well as just preventive maintenance associated with doing our job. I'll come back to asset management because that is an extremely vital importance of what we do. But also built in the rates is capital improvement projects. And improvement projects is just that. They are for the improvement of the system itself. All the growth you see going on out there, none of that is associated with the rates. Rates are just to maintain the existing system. Now, when we get new assets because growth built a new well site, that gets turned over to the city. Now we have to operate and maintain that. But in that CIP program are things that we put in place to operate the system as efficiently as possible or to make the water product better. I do know that been here about 3 years. My supervisor at the time, we went to lunch at the rooftop. I got an Arnold Palmer, and it was a little bit bitter. And so kind of understood that, hey, what's going on with the water here? Not that there's nothing wrong with it. It just tastes a little bit different. So I got with Deputy Director Solis, and we understand that the Salt River is a Salt River for a reason, and the water quality that we get meets all standards. It's safe to drink, just a little bit bitter. But we're working towards every day making sure that product gets better and better. Every time we bring on a new water source, we're working towards that. As well as we've got some projects in play that I can tell you about later. Asset management, I think I said I was going to come back to that. Also within the rates, regulatory compliance is a huge component. We have bosses beyond council. We've got the county, we've got the state, we've got the federal government that we've got to follow their rules and pay their bills and all the good stuff that goes with that. And then finally, the water portfolio component of any business. We maintain a small portfolio of water assets that we use to bolster up our business. And so, talking about asset management. Asset management is a catch-all term for the big expenses associated with what we do. The city and the utilities are in a forever business. And so if you think about your car, you preventive maintenance, you change the oil, change the belts, the air filters, that type of thing. Low cost, you do it every once in a while, makes things last longer. Well, at some point in time, transmission is going to go out, your engine may go out. You may trade it in by then, that's a whole other story, but we're in the forever business. We can't just trade in the asset. And so when we get new well sites or new treatment facilities, there's a point in time where we've got to put a significant amount of expense in there to make sure that it is operating as optimally as it possibly can. And then at some point in time, we got to replace the asset. We got to drill a new well to ensure that we're still getting the water getting the water we need to deliver to our customers there. So asset management is that catch-all, and asset management actually is what drives a lot of our rates. They dictate quite a bit of what we do and how we operate. We went through this with the WRC. The WRC saw how one well takes X amount of people to operate every day, X amount of people to maintain, X amount of regulatory compliance folks to come through. Asset management dictates the frequency at which things have to occur. And so when we look at what should be reinvested into our system, the city of Buckeye currently operates just over $1 billion worth of assets: well sites, pump stations, the above ground and below ground storage tanks, wastewater treatment facilities, recharge facilities. All of those assets require personnel, maintenance, asset management. So when you look at it, the rule of thumb is about 2% of the value of the asset. So if you think about $1 billion worth of assets, 2%, we should be reinvesting $20 million into those assets to ensure that they are working optimally, keeping costs down as much as humanly possible. The old adage of an ounce of prevention, a pound of cures is exactly what we try to operate by. But that's not to say we're gonna go and try to seek $20 million tomorrow, the next day, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. That's just the target, and we believe we can achieve that, but it's not going to happen overnight. So it's not something we're putting into our rates right now, but I will get into it. As it relates to, in summary, when you talk about asset management, the best way to call it is, if you look at the assets or everything, this is sort of a sample set. There's a few things that we still have not on this list, but right here, these are all the assets. The assets provide the service to the customers. Your rates maintain those assets. They go into things like personnel, electricity, asset management, security, automation, water portfolio. That in turn maintains the assets, and the cycle repeats itself. So here's what the committee and staff recommend. Current rates and the current rate structure are a little bit dated in the sense that they kind of are indicative of what 2013 looks like. What we're proposing is that mayor and council look to adopt a multi-year cycle. It provides predictability for our customers. It shows our credit agencies that we've got a plan of action. It helps for fiscal responsibility, fiscal stability. We're also, when we look at the structure that's currently now, we want to make some changes that make more sense to current climate, the way utilities operate. We looked at utilities across the valley, and so what we did was we looked at streamlining base rates, eliminating the volumetric charge for sewer. So it's just a flat rate. That's it. You can flush and take as many showers as you want. And then we did some fee changes. We eliminated that $3.05 charge. Because of that asset management discussion, we rolled that all into the rates. There's no reason to charge that flat fee anymore. And then we used what is called a gradualism approach to get, remember that $20 million I mentioned? The gradualism approach gives us that stair step to that ultimate reinvestment to where we need to be as the utility grows. Our target is the third rate cycle. So if you think about 5-year cycles, the third rate cycle is year 11 through 15. So somewhere in there, we'll achieve the reinvestment that we need to. By then, again, the utility will be strong enough to maintain that, and rates will be appropriately sized accordingly. So looking at the numbers themselves, on the left side is our current rate structure. So residential rates, regardless of your meter size, it was the same fee. Had that $3.05 in there. Commercial, landscape, the non-potable landscape meters, they were, while they had different charges for different sizes, some of them were lumped together. That's a little bit different than a lot of utilities are right now. Right now they look at, and I agree with this, is that the larger the meter, the more water gets pushed through it. You should pay a little bit more, a little bit different amount than a smaller meter. And so what we're proposing is for meter sizes an inch and less. I will clarify that in a minute here, but an inch and less, this is what we're looking at. So 2026, actually, that flat base rate will be a couple bucks less than what it is right now. We eliminated that $3.05. We put into the model the cost of service, and so it's about $33, $34. And then to achieve that target that I mentioned before, The increase, we would then incrementally increase the base rate year over year. Right now, we're looking at, it's about 9%, somewhere in there as we go along, and then starts to, again, the goal is to taper that off as more customers come in, and we'll still achieve our target. Along these lines, we are looking at, through some discussions with Councilmember Berry, there is some legacy meters out there that are still in the 3/4 range, and we think that we can work that in. 3/4 meters themselves will be actually less than the 1 inch there as well. So the goal is to make this potentially have another size lower than 1 inch, which is not uncommon. 3/4 inch is a pretty common. The city standardized on a 1 inch many years ago, so that's why we left it with that. So if you look at, again, larger the larger meters, the rates go up from there. Most of those larger meters fall into that commercial category, but again, a meter is a meter is a meter. You pay a base rate based on that size. So two sides of your bill. You got your base, and you got your usage there. In the blue is our current rates. The structure, we adjusted the structure very slightly. There was always a tiered rate there. So when you use more water, you paid more. As you can see, the 98.5%, that is nearly all of our bills in the residential side of things. Most bills fall in that 0 to 6,000 gallon range. So when adjusting for the cost of service and moving forward to meet the target that we're trying to achieve, again, 2026, you go up less than $1 per 1,000 gallon, and then it tapers off a little bit from there to about 50 cents or so year over year. So residential, again, mostly in that 0 to 6,000 gallons. That was part of the old structure, stays exactly the same. Commercial rate, this was a big difference, huge difference, in the sense that commercial, whether you used 1 drop or you used 1,000 drops, you paid the same amount. And there was this structure right here does not currently exist. We're proposing to make this structure for our commercial customers in the sense that, again, on a customer by customer basis, commercial customers tend to use more water, and so therefore, again, the more water they use, the higher in the tiers they go, and so if you're in the 50,000 gallon a month club, it can get pretty pricey. So when we talk about landscaping, we adjusted the structure slightly. The first tier used to be 0 to 10,000 gallons a month, and then 10,000 gallons to infinity. We adjusted that. Nearly none of our bills were below 10,000 gallons, and we adjusted that to be more in line with the rest of the valley. But also, it took into account that most of our bills were in that 0 to 50,000 gallons, and the other 25% that's over 50,000 gallons. 40% of that 25% was 150 or less, and so when you look at the rise, because although they use a lot of water, their rise year over year is pretty level, and we recognize that because of the fact that landscaping is often in an HOA setting, and then the HOA would pay that, raise your rates, and then it comes right back to us as residents of the HOA. And so we looked at that and recognize that that's what's occurring in many cases. Let's try to limit that as much as humanly possible in the early years. And then non-potable rates, that is the reclaimed water that comes from our reclamation facilities. Our customers are primarily golf courses, large turf users, the schools. I think we have 1 or 2 HOAs on there, but I don't think there's very low customer counts. Most of that water, the purple water, goes to it's not purple, but purple pipe goes to recharge. And so when we talk about on the sewer side of things, again, current residential structure is a base rate plus a volumetric charge. So the previous chart, 0 to 6,000 gallons. If you're in a 6,000 gallon club, 2 times 6,000 is $12. You add it to the 28, you're about $40. We're proposing, due to the cost of service, we're proposing $46. So there's a slight increase there, but you don't have to worry about the volumetric charges after that moving forward. Several cities fall into that category where they don't charge that amount. And then the commercial side of things, again, we streamlined that meter base rate. Larger the meter, the larger the base rate, and then on the volumetric usage, which was really low, the model spit out an adjusted rate, which is very much in line with the other cities as well. So when we look at some sample bills, if you have a residence, you're 1 inch, you're a 1 inch meter, 6,000 gallons of usage, you're currently at 59, 57. In 2026, you're about $62, and then again that incremental increase goes up year over year. On the sewer side of things, again, like I mentioned before, slight increase. It's from 2025 to 2026. Commercial, landscape, non-potable, commercial usage 2 inch meter, so they use a larger meter, a lot more water, $40 increase. Landscaping actually in the early years is a little bit less and stays close, and then eventually we're talking a little bit more money, but recognizing that again that cost that comes right back to us through the HOA fees. Commercial sewer, again 2 inch meter, 60,000 gallons worth of usage, increases as such. So how did we get here? In July, Mayor and Council stood up the Water Rates Committee from July to October. So we went through each one of those areas, took deep dives into each utility. We analyzed different rate structures. We looked at and compared ourselves to the other Valley cities, and I'll share that with you right now. But we also went through and talked about what we call the flow of water. We're a groundwater source utility throughout the city, and so we went through each one of those 7 or 8 steps and dove into what does it take to operate a treatment facility. How much money does it cost to operate? How much money does it cost to replace certain aspects of it? To rehab certain aspects, tanks, reservoirs, you name it, we went through it. And then talked about the clean water side. Now this is the dirty water side. After you use it, send it back to us, goes to our reclamation facility, and all this. We talked about the steps that it takes to reclaim that water from the sewage, and what that means. I mean, you get solids that come out. I call it the cake. It has to be disposed of. That costs money. Water that gets reclaimed goes to a couple different sources: farms, golf courses, and then also again recharging back into the ground. So we looked at several different options. First option approach to establishing good solid rates so that we're recouping all of the costs necessary. But the first option was, what if we did nothing? Doing nothing meant that at some point in time, the quality of service would go down because we'd have to cut some things out, as well as the fact that the utility would end up going into the red. And what does that mean? That means at some point in time, we'll have to either raise rates or ask the general fund for a big, huge loan. Didn't think that was a good idea. Then we looked at, to recoup those costs, how quickly do we want to do that? I mean, we looked at doing it in the first year. Called that the first year option. That was an extraordinary delta between what everyone was paying now to what the first year would look like. That was rejected and not recommended. We looked at something called the cycle 1. So in the first 5 years, could we get there? That also placed a pretty good burden on the ratepayers, and so that was rejected as well. But what we looked at is we call the gradualism approach. It is the utilities utilize this for cost recovery, fairness, as well as minimize disruption to our ratepayers. And as I mentioned, we're looking at the third cycle to recoup our cost and fully fund our asset management program. So what's in the rates? When we look at these 4 areas, our operations is that supplies and services I talked about. But what we looked at is we have pretty good forecasts for all these areas. And so we plugged in. We know what the rise of healthcare costs are. We know what the rise in costs have been historically for chemicals and electricity and fuel, as well as our planned projects. We know when we need those projects to come on board to benefit the system. So we put those in those years, allowed those dollars and cents to calculate out in the model, and so we have confidence that these are good forecasts and solid. But when we talk about the asset management component, that's where the gradualism kicks in. And so we look at, again, just talking about the value of assets under management. Water sitting at about $790 million worth of assets. If we took that 2% approach tomorrow, talking about $16 million. We're not asking for that. We put in 5.9 and then steadily grew that over time. And as you notice, it gets closer. Our assets that we'll add some more assets to the portfolio. We'll add, growth is happening, so new well sites will come on board. But ultimately, at some point in time, those two line items will meet. So the other thing we did with the WRC is we compared ourselves to the other cities, and you can see several cities have multi-year rate cycles. Several do the exact same thing we did, or we're proposing, I should say, to have streamlined meter pricing for the size of your meter and your cost, as well as tiers. And so tiers across the board, we're proposing tiers across the board. So then when people kind of look at, well, why is Buckeye different? Why are rates different than other valley cities? We take a raw source of water, we treat it, we do something to it, and we deliver it to your house. Everything goes back to the assets. Assets dictate the cost, and when we looked at Surprise, Liberty, and Goodyear, we all treat and deliver about the same amount, 3.5 to 5 billion gallons a year. But when you look at what it takes for us to do it versus the other cities, we have so many more assets. And why is that? One, because we're spread out. Two, where we're located in the valley, a good chunk of our assets are in central Buckeye. Going back to that taste analysis, the water being mined out of this area. The farmers can pull water out all day long. Lots of it fast, not very good quality. Will take a lot of cost to treat, and so we are a little bit more selective on that. And so we've got more wells, we've got more reservoirs, we've got more treatment facilities to do the exact same thing. When I was with Surprise, our average well production, meaning how much water we can mine out of the ground, was somewhere between 1,100 and 1,500 gallons a minute. Our average here is 500. And so to get the same amount, you're looking at 2 to 1, and maybe a case 3 to 1. And every time you add an asset, you're adding personnel, you're adding electricity, you're adding all those costs. But as I think we're doing something right, because right now Liberty and Goodyear are more expensive than we are. So at some point in time, that shifted. But when we compare ourselves with the other cities, I should say, for a 1-inch meter, residential meter, 6,000 gallons. Today, we're smack dab in the middle of the other West Valley cities, I should say. Our proposal, should it go into effect in May of next year, keeps us right where we're at. In 2027, we move a little bit higher, but the other valley cities will do the same, as well as we know Liberty currently has a rate case in with the ACC, as well as Goodyear. It's a little bit ahead of the city of Buckeye in a sense that they've already adopted an NOI in September for increases of 6.5 and 7.5. I don't know if that's water and wastewater or vice versa. But anyway, that's what they're seeing. So their cost will also go up. So from today, we still will have another outreach meeting. We'll also be pushing out a lot more information through our social media, bill inserts, you name it, our website. We'll have a calculator so that you can go in, you can put your usage from your bill in there, and you can kind of calculate everything that's associated with your bill. Specifically, we'll have that on our website. And the goal is to bring bring this to council in a workshop session. We'll take all the feedback from you, make some adjustments if necessary, and present that to council, allow them to add their feedback and discussion, provide us with some direction, seek a notice of intent to raise late January, 60-day call to the public, April, adoption in May. So with that, be happy to take any questions.
What's the current reserve balance looking like? Last I saw that was pretty high.
Current reserve? Our required reserve is just 2 months operating. Our fund balance is, I wouldn't call it high because we have planned expenses year over year, and so if you look at it, the fund balance has $30 million in it. We got $39 million of planned expenses. So we're sort of riding that zero line, but we have to maintain minimum reserves. And I didn't repeat the question, so I'm going to get yelled at. The question was, what does our reserves look like? So the reserves, like I said, we have them. We do take on operational debt as well. That continues to come down as our revenue goes up, but we use that to hedge against higher rates too. Any other questions? I'm here all day. They should all.
Because I've come across countless ones around town that
Mm-hmm.
covers and months of calling, and nothing gets done about them.
Well, I encourage you to talk to one of our water team, and we can certainly see your notes and tackle those. Yes, ma'am.
My question is how the data centers that are proposed in Buckeye are going to affect the water, since they use a lot more water than anybody else.
Well, their bill will be commensurate with their use, and I probably shouldn't put a mint in my mouth, but I have dry mouth. But the data centers, they've recognized that it's not good business to use a lot of water. City of Buckeye, those data centers that have come to us that we've discussed, their water usage, if it's astronomical, we don't encourage them to come in. Right now, the city only has one data center that I'm aware of that they acquired the land that once was supposed to be a housing development, about 2,000 acres. And through the agreement that we made with them, they would use about 2,000 acre feet. Now, it sounds like a lot, but the housing development that was supposed to go on there would use about 3 times as much. So they have that 1 acre foot per acre of usage is a lot less than what homes would do. So they're getting the fact that it is a not good business to use a lot of water. Yes, ma'am. The answer is no. Data centers, similar to the housing development, data centers or any other demand coming in are going to build the infrastructure necessary to expand the system to meet their needs. They'll pay the impact fees associated with all of the treatment on both sides, water and wastewater. So that will occur, and then they'll get charged the rates just like we would to operate the system associated with the water that they use. So the capital expenses none of that in your rates is to pay for businesses to expand the system. They have to do that themselves, either through impact fees, they pay that to us, we go expand the system, or they do it themselves. Home builders, residential subdivisions, they're very good at that, and they do that. Businesses, gas stations, the fries, that type of thing, they usually pay the impact fees, and then we put that in. Sure. be happy to share with you the agreement that we put in place with the company's called Tract, and show that how they're on the hook for the development as well as for water associated with it. It is very uncommon if a community decided to do that. That's a little bit uncommon. Development pays for itself. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the data center, basically AI, okay, the more that people use it beyond me, but anyway, then the more water, and I know we're not talking about electricity, but the more it's going to be used. And to ask simple, little, tiny questions
Mhm.
is literally X bottles of water for something so ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So when everybody decides that it's like the thing to do, they're, you know, because it's already causing problems in other states, okay, regarding water
Mhm.
and electricity, we're not talking about.
That's a big thing.
So,
Yeah.
you know, these people are like, oh, you know, like it says, you know, for instance, writing a letter. No, just go do this, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's ridiculous, you know, but everyone's jumping on board and doing that. So eventually they will, gonna have to run out of their water. So if they run out of their water or the water gets low, is it gonna be their responsibility to figure out how they're gonna deal with the water problem? And are they gonna like take a piece of their property or something and build another well or do something? Because in states, whether you have a data center or you don't, even if you don't have a data center in your state, all states are paying proportionate for the electric, whether you have one or not.
Mhm.
And so that's another fear regarding, you know, the water, and also with, let's just be, you know, water is essential, we know that for
Mhm.
everything. You know, and it's like, it's just ridiculous that people have to use this and use it to an extent to ask a simple question, like what time is it today, or something. And it's going to generate, they have categories like how many bottles of water does it take to ask a question. So at one point, it's just gonna, you know, water is just gonna be
Mhm.
used and, you know.
The newer data centers, though, are using substantially less water than the ones that are being made an example nationwide. They are using the diesel and
I don't know if I can.
where they're recycling that coolant through, and they have the computers submerging in that. They are still using a large amount of water, I'm not gonna deny that, but that's more for like their air conditioning and the cooling of the air, but not the cooling of the computers. So they have realized that it is an issue, people are concerned, so they have spent a lot of money to get around that. It's just the media picks and chooses what they want to publish, so they're not really talking about that. But a lot of the data centers now are using a special kind of coolant oil that the computers are in.
So they are changing it a bit.
They are, and hopefully Buckeye is going to hold the data centers accountable to using alternatives and letting them know that if you do start running into water shortages and you're using ration water, that they're the first to use that. I think that would be a valid solution for everyone.
So are there any other questions related to the rates and?
Oh.
I want to know why our rates are increasing when we have water that one is destroying brand new toilets. Like, no joke. There are people, I just put a brand new toilet in not even a year ago. There's already rust drains just from where the water sits. The water 90% of the time smells funny. You can't drink
Yep. Unfortunately, again, the utilities do not take any tax revenue. So everything we do associated with the utilities comes from them. So I can't speak to the murals or anything like that because that revenue does not come anywhere to the city. So it's what we collect is to put back into the system so that again we can improve the system as best we can, understanding that again certain parts of the city, the water we start with is it's not going to harm you. It's just not the most favorable condition, and we're working towards every day when we bring new assets on, new well sites on, to try to blend that out. And when I started here at the city, water, I use the rooftop example. Is when I started here and I had an Arnold Palmer at the rooftop. It was a little sour. I go back every so often. I noticed it's getting a lot better. It's still not there yet. We've got a lot more work to do, and the city's got a lot more infill to go to. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know it would cost a little bit more stuff in the long run. It would be massive benefit, like not a little bit, but a massive benefit would be to look into doing primary, like primary water instead of just going only so deep with wells. Because then you would have to, that water's pure and it never runs out. So there would be no, there wouldn't be like any depletion, and also when it comes to filtering and cleaning, it would be a lot less as well. I do understand that to begin with it would cost a little bit more, but it would save a lot more money. And I've got a whole literature on that.
Sure. Be happy to see it.
Pass out to anybody that wants to see it and how that works. And it's like the purest water you can get, and you're not gonna run out.
Of groundwater?
No, it's called primary water. It's like what spring water comes from, deep down.
Okay.
It's something that's, but there's been other places in the country and also around the world that have drilled down and got to primary water, even in desert landscapes.
I'd be happy to take a look at that. The challenge with using groundwater in Arizona is that every drop is accounted for, and a good reason, you've probably seen on the news, there's been some over-exaggeration that the Arizona's going dry and things like that, and in 100 years we won't have enough water. We have deep aquifers. I'm not saying that, but the point of fact is the modeling that we are governed by that the state has done tells us that every drop of groundwater that comes out, regardless of its length of use or its pureness, has to be replenished, and that's the cost we're faced with.
If we were to use primary water, we could use groundwater for other things that, we're trying to conserve now.
Well, I'd have to. I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. Sure. Sure. Okay. Anything else? There's nothing else. The team is here to ask if you got any questions regarding our operation. Vice Mayor.
We used to got flood irrigation in a lot of downtown, don't we?
Flood irrigation services still exist. It's not represented here. That service is still available.
And that comes off of one of the irrigation.
We've got our customers that take our ID water. We've got customers that take Buckeye Water Conservation District water.
Is that something they have to sign up for, or is that something that's always been, I don't
Going back some time, we've got a set number of lots in each of the district service areas that we are the Zanjeros for. We release the water, when we pay each irrigation district for that water, and then we go and release the water for those customers. But there's that service area is not growing. It is locked in, but it's still available. Excuse me?
they operate that, the gates?
No, we do. We do.
So we have to pay people to do that.
That's correct. We have a team within our distribution crew handles that. Yep. So anyway, the team is here. If you've got any questions, they'll get up and mingle a little bit, but feel free to ask them any questions about our operation. They're very proud of what they do. They're very professional. So thank you very much for coming tonight. If there's any questions, if you got your packet, there's a QR code in there. Scan that, and you can send in any more questions, thoughts, comments, and it'll come to us, and we'll be responding to everything. So thank you very much.